What's up, my wizards? It's Deb from SBMTG down there again already with more Kaladesh spoilers. I just finished up editing one, and halfway through me editing the first spoiler video, they spoiled like 10 more cards. So I'm going to go ahead and give you these, and keep in mind this is a very, very fresh reaction to these spoilers because they literally came out 10 minutes ago. I'm going to give them to you. Here's one of the coolest cards we've seen today first. This is Depala Pilot Exemplar. It's 3 mana. That's a generic, a red, and a white. Ooh, Boros colors. For a 3/3 legendary dwarf pilot with cool abilities. Other dwarves you control get +1/+1, and each vehicle you control gets +1/+1 as long as it's a creature. Whenever Depala Pilot Exemplar becomes tapped, you can pay X. If you do, reveal the top X cards of your library, put all dwarf and vehicle cards from among them into your hand, and put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. The last ability looks pretty cool, but I'm not really sure on that at all. We saw like Munda Ambush Commander in the last couple of sets, and everyone was like, ooh, that looks nice, and it turned out to be like not great, So I'm not really sure about this either, although it does cost 3, and it's a 3/3, that's not bad in and of itself. All dwarves you control get +1/+1, feeling like we'll probably see some more dwarves, and we've already seen a couple of vehicles, so that's not bad either. Like, we can at least try to make an EDH dwarf or vehicle deck, maybe. I doubt that, because there's not going to be enough vehicles to make an EDH deck. But, this is going to at least be a fun budget thing, and it's a lord for 2 different card types. It does something cool, so if nothing else, this is a really neat card. Although I'm not really sure how much impact it'll have ultimately, it is at least cool. Next is Architect of the Untamed. This looks neat too. 3 mana, 2 generic, and a green. For a 2/3 Elf Artificer Druid with whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you get an energy counter. This mechanic again. You can pay 8 energy counters to create a 6/6 colorless beast artifact creature token. This looks maybe usable. I don't like the 3 mana casting cost on it. I really wish it was 2 mana. That would be much better. You could make the power and toughness go down, maybe a 1/3 instead. I would much rather have this at 2 mana. But at 3 it still looks maybe playable. 8 energy counters seems like a lot, but we've already seen a couple of cards, at least in these upcoming cards, that do things with energy counters. That seems to be an important mechanic in this block. So maybe this is standard playable. Right now it exists in a vacuum. We'll have to see what other energy counter stuff we get. But obviously if all we're doing is playing lands, it's going to take a while to get to 8. But the card at least has some value in the later game. It's a decent body in the early to mid game. Again, I hate 3 mana. But in the later game, this makes a 6/6, and it can make more than 1 if you get 8 more energy counters, if you can pull that off. But, I'm not going to write off the card immediately. It doesn't look terrible, but it doesn't look incredible either. Next is Glint Sleeve Artisan. It's just 3 mana, 2 generic, and a white. For a 2/2 Dwarf Artificer. Hey, a dwarf with Fabricate 1. We've already talked about that. Whenever this creature enters the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on it, or create a 1/1 colorless servo artifact creature token. Not going to spend too much time on this. Just another good, limited, common example of what Fabricate is. I hope we see some cards that have this ability and are really actually standard playable, because I like the ability a lot. And, even for 3 mana, you get 3 power split amongst 2 guys, or 3 power on a single creature, depending on what you need, whatever the situation calls for. Really like the ability. Next is Whirler Maker. It's 3 generic mana for an artifact. Pay 4 mana and tap it. Create a 1/1 colorless Thopter artifact creature token with flying. Premium limited uncommon is what it looks like to me. 4 mana to make the thing is pretty steep, and 3 mana to play the card is kind of steep. But, especially in sealed, games go into board stalls, and they go into like turn 20 all the time. So this card looks really, really good in those sort of sealed situations. So look out for this. I actually think it's really, really good, especially in sealed, but also draft, but I'm not going to make it out of the limited environment. But in the limited environment, pretty good piece. Next is Sky Skiff. It's just 2 generic mana for a vehicle. That's an artifact. It's a flying 2/3 with crew 1. Tap any number of creatures you control with total power 1 or more. This vehicle becomes an artifact creature until end of turn, meaning that it can attack or block. Here's another thing that's just a limited example of what vehicles are, basically, and this doesn't look half bad and limited at all. You get a 2-power flyer with decent toughness figures, and that's always good in limited, especially for just the 2 mana. So, you know, I definitely would draft this. This seems pretty good, but again, never making it out of limited, just showing us an example of what they're doing with this mechanic. Here's Speedway Fanatic. This is intriguing. It's 2 mana, 1 generic and 1 red for a 2/1 with haste, and whenever Speedway Fanatic crews a vehicle, that vehicle gains haste until end of turn. Interesting flavor, by the way, that like if you tap it for crew, then like it's a better pilot than other things, so you know it can give the vehicle an ability. I like that flavor, but moreover, I just like the card, period. You know, mono red aggro seems pretty good, even if you're not playing vehicles in your deck, which you might be, depends on what we see. But even if you're not playing vehicles, you get a 2-power, 2 mana guy with haste. Pretty fast dude. We need something like that in mono red aggro right now. So I like the creature, even if it didn't have the stupid vehicle ability on it. I like it. Here's Start Your Engines, Grown. It's 4 mana, that's 3 generic and a red for a sorcery. With vehicles you control become artifact creatures until end of turn. Creatures you control get +2/+0 until end of turn. Interesting, you know, I like the order of operations here. First it turns all your vehicles into creatures, and then all your creatures get +2/+0. So, good limited, you know, trumpet sort of ability, good limited buff for your entire team, sort of. Not bad, but again, we're seeing an awful lot of limited cards in this batch of spoilers here. Because this is what we're doing with these mechanics, and you know, it doesn't seem like a bad card in limited at all, especially if you draft this strategy. I just really hate the name. Again, I'll probably say this a bunch of times during spoiler seasons. It's cars. Why are there cars in my Magic? Like I can't. There's you know, flying machines and stuff. That's kind of cool. We'll see a legendary, you know, mythic flying machine coming up that's actually really good, and I don't mind it at all. But like, Start Your Engines is just like this. But why are there cars? It's Magic. Here's Aether Storm Rock. It's 4 mana, that's 2 generic and 2 white for a bird. It's a 3/3 flyer. Whenever Aether Storm Rock or another creature enters the battlefield under your control, you get an energy counter. And whenever Aether Storm Rock attacks, you may pay 2 energy counters. If you do, put a +1/+1 counter on it and tap up to 1 target creature defending player controls. This card kind of looks bad at first glance, but it might be a little better than it reads. You know, when it comes into play, it gets you half of the way there to making it a 4/4 or tapping one of your opponent's guys down so you can get through for some damage. So the card actually isn't terrible. I'm not really thinking it'll see standard play, but it is something to at least have on your radar. You know, it's no Wingmate Rock, it's not that at all, but it at least can make itself bigger. It can, you know, have good applications in combat no matter what. So card doesn't look terrible, but it also doesn't look amazing. But maybe keep your eyes out for it. Here's a crazy card. This is Skysovereign Console Flagship. It's 5 mana for a 6/5 legendary artifact vehicle with flying. And whenever Skysovereign Console Flagship enters the battlefield or attacks a Titan ability, it deals 3 damage to target creature or planeswalker an opponent controls. And it's got Crew 3, which means you have to tap any number of creatures you control with a total power of 3 or more to make it a creature. Okay, again, a Titan ability whenever it enters the battlefield or attacks. That is really good, and it only costs 5 mana for what can be a 6/5 flyer. And it's 5 mana of any color. That seems pretty good too. You know, it'll be in decks, maybe as a curve topper in some aggro decks or mid-range decks, you know, decks that create tokens. This could be in those all day, you know, because tapping guys, you know, with total power 3 or more actually isn't so hard. Sometimes you can just tap one guy and get this to attack. That's really good, and when it attacks, it'll bolt either a creature that they control or maybe kill a planeswalker. That's really good too. So I would be on the lookout for this. I'm not sure how amazing it is. It may see 1 or 2 of play in some decks. I don't think it's the best thing ever, but I do think it's maybe one of the best cards of the day. This thing looks pretty imposing, and Titan abilities are not to be taken lightly. This looks pretty good. And here's the last card of the day so far. Let me hedge my bets. This is Rashmi, Eternity's Crafter, and I like this. It's 4 mana, 2 of which is generic, 1 is green and 1 is blue, for a 2/3 legendary elf druid with, whenever you cast your first spell each turn, reveal the top card of your library. If it's a non-land card with converted mana cost less than that spell's, you may cast it without paying its mana cost. If you don't cast the revealed card, put it into your hand. This seems pretty freaking good, honestly. I'm not sure though. I mean, 4 mana for a boltable thing is not great in every format, but it could see standard play, and it's obviously a very build-aroundable commander. You know, I could really see a deck being built around this in EDH. Although it could be slightly hard to get this to work. You know, it's sort of part Cascade in a way, and that can be easy, that can be hard. You know, as far as building a deck around it, you're not always going to, you know, you play a 3 mana thing, you're not always going to reveal a 1 or 2 mana thing. But cool thing about that is that it puts the card in your hand anyway. Whenever you cast your first spell each turn, draw a card. It's got sort of a Jorian thing going on there. But sometimes, instead of just drawing the card, you'll be able to immediately play the card. And that's really, really good, you know. And if you're playing like a 5 mana thing, then chances are pretty high that you'll be able to play the revealed card for free, given that it's a non-land. So this is just a crazy looking card advantage engine, as long as you can keep it on the battlefield. This looks really, really good. And by the way, it's your first spell each turn. So that includes your opponent's turns as well. So you can just be like playing stuff for free on their turn. So that looks really good too. I just like an awful lot about this, and it may really be a thing. 4 mana is fairly steep, especially for something like this. That's a card advantage engine. I'm not totally sure. I don't think 3 toughness is very high, but just first glance, this card looks like it could be pretty impactful. I like it a lot, and in like a Bant control build, which people are talking about, this could definitely be a standout. That's all I've got for now. I am really excited about that last card. Sorry, that card has implications. We'll see. We'll see. But anyway, there's probably going to be more spoilers in 5 minutes if the day keeps going like it's been. But check out the spoiler video we already put out a little bit earlier today, and check out any upcoming spoilers. If you see spoilers come out, we will put a video out on them. So stick with us, and all the other content coming up is also coming up, and I will see you guys later. If you enjoyed the content, please like the content. It helps me more than anything you can do. Comment. Let me know anything I've missed when I'm talking about these cards, because you guys you have the advantage of being in the future from when I record this video. So maybe you'll have heard some cool stuff. Let me know any combos you've heard or anything like that. And I will see you guys later. I'm Dev from SBMTG. Thanks for watching, my wizards.